morning, everyone. It's Saturday morning, and we are doing our once a month live all about dogs and dog training. So looking forward to having people jump on board. And my name is Sandy Kamen-Wisniewski, and I am with Animal Education and Rescue, bringing education, therapy, and rescue and to the world, and looking forward to this hour with you. And it's all about education today, and hopefully you can learn something new about your dog or about dog behavior during this live. And this is Chloe. Say hi, Chloe. And she's here with us today. Let's see. Okay, I see Sean is here, and she gave me a heart smiley face. So thank you. Heart smiley face to you too. Looks like Mary's here. We'll give it a minute or so. I might be a minute early, and just so you know, we're supposed to be from 9:15 until 10:15, but we're probably gonna do 9:15 till about 10 o'clock because I have an adoption event I have to go to, and it looks like I'm going to be having to do some of the loading and transporting myself. So I thought Chuck was going to be able to help me, and he can't. So I'm going to have to wrap it up a little bit early. Hi, Lori. Okay, so let's just wait a minute or so, see who else comes on board, and then we'll get started. We'll get started in just a few minutes. So, okay. Right? We'll get started in a few minutes and talk about some behavior issues. We have one here that has some behavior issues. Yes, that I have been unable to solve. And some things are not solvable. They have to be managed. Yes, I'm talking about you, Chloe, like peeing on dog beds, peeing on blankets, and peeing on beds and not being housebroken. So you can't fix the problem because of your situation. You learn to manage it. So in her case, we manage it. We manage it by sometimes putting her in a diaper, and sometimes just cleaning up when she goes potty and not letting her be on the bed unless she's supervised. Those are some of the ways that we solve the problem, because sometimes things are not solvable. They are just manageable. So anyway, let's see how we're doing on people. Okay, we've got a small group going on today. It looks like we're losing folks, and bottom line is that if it ends up only being a couple people, then I probably will wrap it up earlier because we won't have a lot to discuss. So whatever it is, right? It's what it's meant to be. So all right, let's see how we're doing here now. Lori says hi, Chloe. She does. Okay. All right, so I think I need a timekeeper, so I need somebody to keep track of the time for me, and I have a kitten that is dumping cat litter outside the litter box. Tootsie, buddy, don't do that. I've got kittens playing all around me. I wish you could see it. Oh, hi, Vicki. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And we're probably going to have to wrap this up early because I have to get the white van and start getting ready for the adoption event earlier than I thought. I thought I was going to have Chuck's help, and we did not communicate well. And so he is going to be busy, so I'm going to be managing it myself. So that's how the story goes. So we'll probably have to leave early anyway. Probably going to wrap up. It's 9:15. I'm probably going to wrap up maybe 10 o'clock, or maybe if there's not a lot of people on board, maybe even a little earlier. Right now I see that there's 3 viewers, which is not a lot. So let's get started. And the first thing I thought of when I was thinking about what to talk about during this live is about dogs and my experience with working with a ton of different dog breeds and ages of dogs. And one thing I guess I've learned in all the years, I started out with having my own dog when I was a kid. We got him, our first dog, when I was 7, and he tragically passed away 3 years later, or not even, like a year and a half, 2 years later. And then we got another dog we named Louie, and Louie was a standard poodle, and we had him for 10 years. So I grew up with a dog, and then when I was 19, I started a pet sitting service and started taking care of lots and lots and lots of dogs. And then a couple years later, I started learning dog training. And so since then, between all the companies, the pet sitting company, Compassionate Dog Training, a dog training company I started many years ago, and fostering, like I can't even tell you how many dogs, and also owning a bunch of dogs throughout my life. The one thing I can tell you is there's no absolute in anything. You know, as I was learning dog training, and I took a lot of seminars on different kinds of things. The latest seminar I took, which was many years ago, when I first started Animal Education and Rescue, was about dog aggression, because what was happening was in Animal Education and Rescue, I was coming into some serious behavior issues with dogs, because you take in dogs that there are a lot of unknowns. And so you can't possibly know in 5 minutes meeting a stray whether that dog is going to have different kinds of behavior issues. So it became quite evident that I needed more training with dog aggression. So I took a seminar at that time, many, many years ago, on dog aggression by somebody at that time that was like the #1 like trainer, well-known trainer in the dog training world on dog aggression. And at that time, what I got out of that seminar was that you can base a dog's aggression based on the bite inhibition. So in other words, how badly a dog will bite. And that's kind of how you can gauge how aggressive they're going to be with other dogs. And that's what I got out of it. And I'm not saying that was all that was taught. It was so many years ago, but that's the basis of the understanding at that time. My experience with dogs and dogs not getting along, frankly, and I can't even tell you how many dogs that I've had come and go from my house, and many, many dogs at a time that have come and gone. And I can tell you that there's absolutely no absolutes on anything, and that each situation is different, and you can't gauge a dog's aggression with other dogs based on one bad experience that the dog has with one other dog. What I have learned too is that you could have a dog that is perfectly great with, like, it meets a million other dogs and it's perfectly fine, and then it meets the one dog that it hates and it wants to kill that dog. Yet in the animal rescue world, what happens is that then you have a situation where, let's say you have a brand new dog, you don't know that dog at all, and you introduce it to another dog and it wants to kill that other dog. Well, then you make the assumption that it's not good with all other dogs. Well, dogs can be picky and choosy who they want to have as their friends. So introducing them to 1 or 2 dogs may not be an indication that that dog is not good with other dogs. And that is something that I've learned from doing this. That's something totally I wouldn't have thought of. I would have just thought, based on all the testing that they do in shelters where they have dogs meet each other, where you have one dog meet one other dog and the dogs act aggressive towards each other, you think, oh, okay, dog's not good with other dogs. That is not necessarily the case at all. You could have just personality conflicts. The handler that's handling the dogs at the time could be nervous, could be anxious. The dog could be sensing that anxiety and could be reacting to it. It could be the situation the dog's in. It could be the fact that the dog is on leash. The two dogs are on leash and they act aggressive on leash with other dogs, but off leash they're fine. So, you know, unfortunately, there is no absolute way to know that a dog is not good with all other dogs at all. There's just no way to do it. But that said, it is impossible, virtually impossible, well, impossible, for let's say you have a dog that's acting aggressive towards another dog, like next door or whatever, and you just make the assumption that your dog is not good with other dogs. Who has 15, 20 dogs of different ages, sizes, and breeds to try to introduce your dog to see if it's just that one dog or if it's all other dogs? That's like an impossibility. Who has that many dogs at their disposal? Also, introducing dogs to each other can be a precarious situation. It can be actually dangerous. So it has to be done very carefully, methodically, with the right people. And I'm a big believer in introducing dogs off leash, not on leash, because on leash, so many dogs, there's like a large percentage of dogs that are dog aggressive on leash to other dogs. And you would think they're terrible with other dogs. But in essence, it's just a leash thing. And so I'm a big believer in an ideal world to have dogs meet between fences in baby gates, or with one dog being in a crate and one dog being outside of a crate, or worst case scenario, having dogs meet on a walk, but walking on opposite sides of the road and walking forward, and slowly walking closer and closer to each other until they're walking side by side. Then they can sniff each other's butts one at a time as they're walking forward. So those are some ideas for you. But I guess the broad idea that I want to just share with you is that you can't judge a dog and a dog's liking or disliking of other dogs based on one or two experiences. That has been my I guess, lesson learned in all these years. And unfortunately, in the past, I've made some mistakes based on the training I had received about, you know, how to test a dog with other dogs to see whether they're dog aggressive or not. It is not an exact science at all. And so we need to keep that in mind as we move forward. You could have two dogs that live together in harmony, and they absolutely love each other. And so you just make the assumption that those two dogs are good with all other dogs, but that's not necessarily the case. So, you know, unfortunately dog fights happen. You know, people take their dog to the dog park and dog fights happen because they assumed their dog was good with all other dogs, but there's personality conflicts. Some dogs don't like, you know, certain dogs, but then they're fine with other dogs. So I hope that makes sense. Does anybody have any questions on that theory or that idea? You know, as I'm, you know, waiting to see if anyone has any thoughts, I'll just keep my ideas running here. Is the other thing that I think is really important for people to understand is that when you have a dog, and I'm assuming you have a dog because that's why you're on here, or you want a dog because it's interesting to you to learn more about dogs. And if you didn't have a dog, it might not be quite as interesting. So that being said, my guess is that if you have a dog, you're walking your dog in the neighborhood, you're walking your dog, maybe you take your dog to the pet store, certainly you take your dog to the vet when they have to go to the vet, you take your dog in the car, and so forth. Keep in mind what I said about dogs not all getting along. When you put, let's say, a situation with two dogs in a pet store, you have both dogs that are off their property, that are in an unusual environment. The smells in there are just like, are just intense for the dogs and probably overstimulating. Seeing all the other dogs is overstimulating. Seeing all the people, all the, you know, the supplies, all the food, overstimulating. So you're putting your dog in a very stressful situation. And then I see it over and over again. And then dog owners will have their dog meet other dogs. They will have, there's the kitty, by the way. Say hi. This is Skittles. Skittles is a kick. She is a handful, but so cute. Look at that face. Look at that face. Anyway, my suggestion to you is to not have your dog go nose to nose with another dog and have them sniff each other. What you're doing is you're setting your dog up for potential failure. Because they're already at a heightened sense of stress and anxiety and just stimulation is probably a better word for it, there is a bigger chance that your dog, from being stressed out, or the other dog that's in the same situation and the same amount of stress is stressed out, that they would not behave the way they might act when your dog is at home and maybe your sister brings her dog over and they love each other and they play in the backyard where it's a very controlled environment. And so you never know when two dogs are going to decide they don't like each other and they're going to start fighting. And if you have two dogs on leash that start fighting, that may seem like you have a lot more control, but in a sense you have less control because they can get tangled up in the leashes, and then you've got a bigger problem on your hands. So, you know, as I go about, you know, my daily life and seeing all that I see, because I'm so entrenched with dogs and working with dogs, is I see all the mistakes that people make on a daily basis. And making assumptions in life is not a good thing. Don't assume anything. Always ask questions. Always get more information. Be curious. Always be willing to learn and grow. Don't assume something of someone else or a situation, okay? And that will save you and your dog and you and your life from coming into a lot of surprises that are unwelcomed and are filled with grief. So that would be my my 2 cents on that whole scenario. I just did a post, I don't know if you saw it, on pit bull terriers and my experience with pit bull terriers. And so they are especially at risk of being misunderstood or like making mistakes and then paying a bigger price for it, because they already have, unfortunately, a tainted reputation for being aggressive and blah, blah, blah. And what I have found in my experience with pit bulls, now that I've had, I think, plenty of experiences, I actually just adopted a pit bull terrier named Summer. And right now I have, let me think, 2 pit bull terriers in my care, Summer and Stax. And what I have found is that pit bull terriers are an intense breed. They're a high energy breed, and they have a bigger chance, a possibility of not getting along with other dogs. So you have to be that much more diligent and careful with them when it comes to other dogs. And also, you know, with Stax, he got adopted out and returned because he jumped their fence. They were aware he could jump fences and they didn't have him on leash. And the owner was on they'd only had him a month, and the owner was on the other side of the fence across the street with a neighbor and her dog. And Stax jumped the fence and ran over to where the owner was and attacked the dog, that little dog. And the dog ended up having to have some stitches. And they returned Stax to us. Because he's a pit bull, I guarantee you that it was like 3 strikes, you're out. If he had been a standard poodle that did that, or he had been a golden retriever that did that, I think that the stigma wouldn't have been there as much. So would they have returned him? Maybe, probably. I don't know. I have no idea. I can't speak for them, and I'm not going to assume anything. But I can tell you that as soon as he made that stupid mistake and jumped that fence and attacked that dog for reasons I will never know, you will never know, we will never know, unless he learns English and can speak to us, then it like 3 strikes you're out with a pit bull. So those of us that have pit bulls out there, like myself now, I have Summer, and of course I have Stax back. And by the way, Stax is perfectly fine with all other dogs, off leash. He has been introduced to, I can't even tell you how many dogs on my property, off leash. He is totally obnoxious on leash with other dogs. I would never trust him on leash with another dog or intros with another dog. But he now 3 strikes you're out with a dog like that. So if you have a pit bull or pit bull mix, you have to be that much more diligent to make sure that your dog is safe and secure, because they're going to be like, if they make a mistake, the same mistake a golden retriever makes or whatever, I'm just using that as an example, you know, a real notoriously friendly dog, Labrador, let's say, your dog is going to be 3 strikes you're out, where the Labrador or the Poodle or the Golden Retriever is going to be, dog made a mistake, let's do some training, and the dog will be okay for the most part, okay? So keep that in mind if you have a pit bull breed type dog. If you don't, I hope you're listening to these words and that you will be just as forgiving with a pit bull making a mistake as you will any other dog breed making a mistake, because given the right situation, the right scenario, the right stress level, any dog can screw up, any dog. And certainly Stax did, and you know, I've had many other dogs that have made mistakes that you're like, why the heck did you do that? What were you thinking? Well, you know, they're dogs. They got the mentality of a 2 or 3 year old. They weren't thinking. Sometimes you can't overanalyze every situation. What was it the other day? I can't remember. Oh, I know. One of my volunteers, I went over to her house, and her dog gets charged up when people walk through the house, but particularly it's one area, it's the like the seasoned porch area, and that's where we meet to have to sit and work on, you know, our computers and so forth. And so when I head towards that area, he barks at me like crazy and gets really obnoxious and acts like he's gonna nip at my heels. And she said to me yesterday, we met, she's like, why the heck does he do that? And you know, I said, I have no idea. And what's more important than trying to figure out why a dog is doing what they're doing, like what are they thinking? Instead, look at it from a behavioral standpoint and say, okay, I have no idea why he's doing what he's doing, but we do know he's doing this each and every time. So each time that somebody comes to that porch or walks towards that porch, he gets obnoxious, he barks at them, and he acts like he's going to bite them. Okay, so now we're starting with that. We're starting with that. We don't know why. We can't talk to him in English, so let's just figure it out. And so we work on training and redirecting and positive reinforcement and all that good stuff to try to correct the behavior. Not understanding in his mind why he thinks that's important, because ultimately it doesn't matter what he thinks. We need to correct the problem. As long as we recognize it's a problem and we see when and where and how the problem happens, and we know it's right by the 3-season porch, we know that exactly what his behavior is, and we know that he does it with people of all different ages. So we have the information we need. Now we just need to correct it. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So does anybody have any questions? Can someone tell me what time it is so we can keep track of the time? Hey, kitty cat, come here, come here. Don't bite that. Come on. They're biting wires. Not good. Hey, stop. No, Skittles. Hold on, guys. Skittles. It's this one. Causing problems. Okay, thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that. This kitty cat is causing problems. We can't have her chewing wires. That would be bad for her, and that would be bad. Look at how cute. I know we're talking all about dogs, but I've got kittens in here. So, okay. So, thank you, Rachel. I'm going to see if anybody has any questions. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to wrap this up early because I've got a really insane day ahead of me, and I've got to do a lot of preparing for the event that we're having. So, does anybody have any specific questions that maybe I can answer for you? I'm happy to try and do that for you. I'm going to give it a minute because I know sometimes it takes a minute for someone to write something out, and you'll get to see this cute kitty as we wait. And our adoption event, by the way, today is at Pet Supplies Plus in Libertyville from 11 until 2, and it's by the Jewel on Milwaukee Avenue. And we're going to have kittens there. We're going to have we're going to have Jackson the dog there. We're going to have Evie the other dog there. We're going to have guinea pigs there. We're going to have Caesar the adult cat there. He will not be here she will not be there because they're still getting over their sickness. But you can see she's doing so much better. Mwah. Okay. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to wrap up this live. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me for our once a month dog training advice live. And I am Sandy with Animal Education and Rescue, where we bring people and animals together through education, therapy, and rescue. Bye, everyone. See you soon. Bye.